In Screencast 4 this week, I want to introduce you to a functional analysis approach of doing internal analysis. So for the next 2, maybe 3 weeks, but probably 2 weeks in the live online sessions, we are going to be doing internal analysis, and you're going to be using some templates to enable you to do this. So some of you may choose to do functional analysis, and some of you may choose to do another approach, which is value chain analysis. In the online sessions, live online sessions, I'll introduce you to the templates, and they are linked from the workbook from this week. But before we do this, I need to just explain how the two different approaches work. So we're going to start off with functional analysis. So functional analysis is really a way of classifying resources and competencies. So functional analysis identifies capabilities in relation to each of the main functional activities of the organisation. Okay. A value chain analysis separates the activities of the firm into a sequential value chain or business system, which takes the product or the service from its kind of raw state through different processes as it becomes created and converted into a good or service. Okay, so we need to look at each stage of creation, the processes that are involved, the resources that are required in this kind of business system, and to understand where different organisations do things well or don't do things as well as some of their competitors. So let's start off with functional analysis. So functional analysis starts off with saying, well, to create a product or to operate, a business needs to complete standard functions. Okay, so standard functions of a business, and we're going to look at how this can be adapted for different types of organisations. But some of you might start off with saying, okay, well, the functions of an organisation are the marketing, the manufacturing or production of the product or the service, finance, research and development, and human resources management. And for functional analysis, what you'll be doing is you'll be saying, okay, for each function, what resources and competencies are there? So you will need to do some research to say, what evidence is there that in marketing, manufacturing, finance, research and development, and human resources, A, the organisation has the right resources, and B, it has the right competencies. And if it has the right resources and competencies, so if it's got the right resources, if it's got unique resources and core competencies, it's going to have strengths. But if it's got any poor or missing resources and competencies, they are more likely to be weaknesses. Okay, so there is an example which is linked to the workbook this week that you can look at, but we will be discussing this in the live online sessions this week, and you will start to use them, and I will show you examples online on the Blackboard site that students have used and how they've completed these in previous years. Okay, now one of the important things to understand is those functions can be changed or adapted to reflect the different way businesses or organisations in different sectors of the sport industry operate. Okay, so those factors that I've mentioned on the left-hand side of the slide here, they can be adapted and they can be changed. Okay, so let's look at a national governing body as an example. So a national governing body of sport operates in a different way than a typical business. So whereas a typical business might have a marketing department, an HR department, a finance department, a kind of manufacturing or an operations department, an NGB doesn't look like that. It would have, an NGB's functions might look like competition and events, financial and business services, human resources, commercial, performance, legal governance and development. Okay, so we would need to adapt our templates for functional analysis to reflect these different functions that a national governing body would have from a typical business. Okay, and the way we can do this is we could kind of conduct research into the resources and competencies for a national governing body, and we could look at evidence for what are participation rates and trends. Are they good or bad? What are the competition structures? Are they strong and comprehensive or relatively weak with gaps? What about events? Is the NGB the rights holder for a major event? And one of the key things that distinguishes national governing bodies in terms of their finance is their rights holding for leagues or competitions or events. And some NGBs will hold things which are in high demand in terms of broadcasting and sponsorship, and others won't, and that will determine the resources that the organisation has to a large way and the kind of ways it can pursue its strategy. Okay. Club development. Does the national governing body support clubs well? Does it have good packages in place? Does it have a strong club basis? So some sports do. So rugby has a very strong kind of club network, and the sport that I play, basketball, has a fairly weak club network. There are lots of people play basketball, but it doesn't have a strong club network. It has teams, but it doesn't have clubs. And that's something that we can discuss as the module goes on. What about commercial activity, merchandising deals, sponsorship deals? What is their value? Does the NGB exhibit strengths or weaknesses in negotiating these deals? So those are examples of the way that you can do functional analysis. So you can adapt it, and here's an example of how this could be adapted. If you look at the workbook, you will see links through to example blank templates, and we'll start talking about how we can look at those in the face-to-face sessions, which are going to be coming up this week. Okay, so in the next screencast, I just want to do a similarly brief overview of value chain analysis.